The cake sat there like a monument to failure, chocolate frosting spelling out, "Happy 40th Lane," in cheerful blue letters that mocked me from across my empty dining room. 40 candles waited to be lit. But what's the point of making a wish when you're the only one there to blow them out? I'm Lane Morrow, and today I learned that turning 40 means discovering just how alone you really are. Where the hell is everyone? I muttered, checking my phone for the 100th time. The party was supposed to start at 6. It was now 8:30, and my house felt like a tomb decorated with streamers. I'd sent invitations 3 weeks ago, bought enough food for 20 people. Hell, I even cleaned the garage and set up a beer pong table, thinking maybe this time, just maybe, people would actually show up for something I organized. My wife Tessa had texted around 5. "Emergency at the Riverside wedding, can't make it. Sorry, honey." No follow-up. "No, I'll be there as soon as I can. Just sorry." Like she was declining a casual lunch invitation instead of missing her husband's 40th birthday party. My daughter Ava? "Staying at Madison's tonight. Forgot about the party." Forgot. Like it was some random Tuesday dinner instead of the birthday I'd been talking about for weeks. I opened a beer, my 4th, and surveyed the spread. Chips and dip untouched. A meat and cheese platter that cost me $80, growing warm under the dining room lights. The cake, of course, centerpiece of my personal pity party. The doorbell rang, and my heart actually jumped. Finally, someone remembered. I opened the door to find Mr. Donahue from next door holding a package. "This was delivered to my place by mistake," he said, eyeing the decorations visible behind me. "Having a party?" "Had a party," I corrected. Past tense. "Thanks for the package." He lingered, clearly fishing for details, but I wasn't in the mood to explain how my own wife and daughter had better things to do than celebrate my existence. After he left, I sat alone with my beer and opened the package. A new router I'd ordered for work. Even my birthday presents were practical and boring. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Reed. "How's the party going, old man?" I typed back, "Great. Standing room only. Can barely move for all the people." That bad, huh? Reed knew me too well. We'd been through enough together. Our parents' divorce when I was 12, his messy exit from the police force 5 years ago, my struggles with Tessa's increasingly distant behavior. He was the only person who still seemed to give a damn about me. "Nobody came," I admitted in another text. "Not even Tessa?" "Work emergency. Again." "Want me to come over? I can be there in 20. I almost said yes. Almost. But the idea of my brother showing up out of pity felt worse than sitting alone. "Nah, I'm fine. Just gonna eat some cake and call it a night." But I wasn't fine. I was 40 years old, sitting in my empty house, realizing that somewhere along the way, I'd become invisible to everyone who was supposed to matter. My wife treated me like a roommate who paid half the bills. My daughter saw me as an obstacle to her social life. My friends, well, apparently I didn't have any real friends. I lit the candles anyway, all 40 of them. Made a wish I knew wouldn't come true. Blew them out in one long breath that left me dizzy. The next week crawled by in a haze of work and awkward dinners where Tessa barely looked up from her phone. She never apologized for missing the party. Never even acknowledged that it had happened. Then the following Tuesday, my phone chimed with a Venmo request from Tessa for $2,000. The note read, "Dad's 65th party costs. Please send ASAP." I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hand. $2,000 for her father's party. The same father who'd missed my birthday party too, now that I thought about it. No please, no sorry about your party, no acknowledgement that she'd completely blown off the most important day of my year, and now she wanted me to fund someone else's celebration. Something snapped. I opened Venmo and sent her exactly $1. In the note field I typed, "For your integrity fund. Seems like you're running low." Then I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I blocked her number. Blocked her on social media. Changed the locks on the house while she was at work. If I was invisible to her, then she could be invisible to me too. The freedom felt intoxicating. For 3 days, I lived like a bachelor again, ate pizza for breakfast, left dishes in the sink, watched action movies without anyone complaining about the violence. Then, on Friday afternoon, I was called out of a budget meeting at work. Mr. Morrow? The receptionist looked nervous. There are 2 police officers here to see you. My stomach dropped. I followed her to the lobby, where 2 uniformed cops waited with serious expressions. Lane Morrow? The older one, a woman with graying hair and tired eyes, stepped forward. I'm Officer Martinez. This is Officer Chen. We need to speak with you about a domestic disturbance. The police station smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I sat in an interrogation room that looked exactly like every cop show I'd ever watched. Gray walls, metal table, chairs that had seen better decades. Detective Janice Price sat across from me, studying a file folder like it contained the secrets of the universe. She was maybe 55, with silver-streaked hair pulled back severely and eyes that had seen enough bullshit to fill Lake Erie. So, Mr. Morrow, she began, your wife says you've been threatening her and her friend Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein? I kept my voice level, but inside I was connecting dots I'd been too blind to see. The guy who owns that fancy gym downtown? You know him? I know of him. Drives a white Range Rover, right? Spends more on protein powder than I make in a month? I leaned back in my chair. Let me guess. Tessa says I'm dangerous and unstable? Detective Price's expression didn't change. She's concerned about your recent behavior. Changing the locks, blocking her communications, sending threatening messages. Threatening messages? I almost laughed. I sent her $1 on Venmo with a joke about integrity. If that's threatening, then every comedian in America should be in prison. She also mentioned you've been following her, watching her workplace. Now I did laugh. Detective, I work 60 hours a week managing IT systems for a medical supply company. When exactly would I have time to stalk my wife? And more importantly, why would I want to? Something in my tone must have struck her as genuine, because she leaned forward slightly. Why don't you tell me your side of this story? So I did. I told her about the birthday party nobody attended, about Tessa's increasingly frequent work emergencies that always seemed to coincide with family events, about the $2,000 Venmo request that came without even an apology for missing my 40th birthday. And this Ethan Klein, Detective Price said. How does he fit into your wife's work? That's a great question. Tessa plans events, weddings, corporate parties, that sort of thing. As far as I know, Ethan runs a gym. Not exactly overlapping industries. The detective made a note. Mr. Morrow, I'm going to give you some advice. Stay away from your wife until this gets sorted out. Don't contact her. Don't go to her workplace. Don't drive by her new apartment. Her new apartment? She's staying at a friend's place. Says she doesn't feel safe at home. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What friend? But Detective Price was already standing up. Just stay away, Mr. Morrow, for everyone's sake. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. Tessa was staying at a friend's place, but which friend? And how long had she been planning this? The timing was too convenient. I changed the locks and suddenly she's got a whole sob story about feeling unsafe. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Reed. How'd it go with the cops? How did you... Never mind. I don't want to know how you still have sources in the department. Old habits. What happened? I filled him in while walking into my empty house. It felt different now, knowing Tessa wasn't coming back. Not bigger or smaller, just hollow. This Ethan guy, Reed said when I finished. Want me to look into him? I thought you were done with detective work. I'm done with being a cop. I never said anything about being curious. There was a pause. Lane, if Tessa's playing games, you need to know what kind of games they are. That evening, I found myself doing something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I went through Tessa's things. Not her personal items, those were gone, I realized, along with about half her clothes. But the paperwork she'd left behind told an interesting story. Credit card statements showed charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel stays during weekends when she'd claimed to be working events, and most interesting of all, a bank statement showing a $10,000 transfer to something called EK Fitness Solutions. My wife had given 10 grand to Ethan Klein. I was still processing this when my neighbor, Mr. Donahue, knocked on my door. "Lane, I don't want to get involved in your business," he said, "but I thought you should know. That white SUV has been parked across the street for the last 3 nights. Different times, but always when your wife's car wasn't here." "White SUV?" "Range Rover. Fancy one. Driver never gets out, just sits there for an hour or so, then leaves." Ethan had been watching my house. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to downtown Columbus. EK Fitness occupied the ground floor of a converted warehouse, all glass and chrome and motivational posters. Through the windows, I could see beautiful people in expensive workout clothes, pretending to enjoy being tortured by personal trainers. I parked across the street and waited. At 11:30, Ethan Klein emerged from the gym's front entrance. He was everything I wasn't: tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of tan that came from expensive vacations rather than yard work. His Range Rover was parked in a spot marked "Owner Only." But it was the woman walking beside him that made my blood freeze. Tessa, my wife. Laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting casually on his arm. They weren't trying to hide. This wasn't a secret meeting or a chance encounter. They looked like a couple, comfortable, familiar. I watched them drive away together and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak. That would have required me to still love her. This was something colder, more calculating. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop following us, or we call the cops again." I looked around the empty street, then up at the gym's windows. Someone had been watching me watch them. I typed back, "Don't flatter yourself. I was just admiring the architecture." The response came immediately. "We're serious, Lane. Stay away." We. Not I or she. We. I drove home with my mind spinning. Tessa and Ethan weren't just having an affair, they were coordinating against me. The police complaint, the mysterious apartment, even the timing of everything. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment betrayal. This was planned. That afternoon, Reed showed up at my door with a manila folder and a grim expression. "You're not going to like this," he said, settling into my kitchen chair. "But you need to know." The folder contained printouts of public records, business filings, and what looked like surveillance photos. "Ethan Klein," Reed began, 38 years old, divorced twice, currently facing a lawsuit from his former business partner over missing funds. The gym is mortgaged to the hilt, and he owes about 40 grand in back taxes. So he's broke. Worse than broke, desperate. Reed pulled out another document. But here's the interesting part. 3 months ago, someone paid off his biggest debt. Want to guess who? I didn't need to guess. The bank statement I'd found made perfect sense now. Tessa gave him $10,000. "That's just what you found. I'm betting there's more." Reed leaned forward. "Lane, I think your wife has been planning this for months, maybe longer." "Planning what?" "To leave you, but not empty-handed." He pulled out the last document. "I did some digging into divorce law. Ohio is a no-fault state, but there are exceptions. If she can prove you're abusive or threatening, she gets more money. A lot more money. Plus, she'd have grounds to claim she needs protection, ongoing support, maybe even your house." I stared at the papers, seeing my marriage, my life, from a completely different angle. The missed birthday party wasn't neglect. It was strategy. Every work emergency, every late night, every time she'd made me feel like I was asking too much just by wanting her attention. She'd been building a case against me while robbing me blind. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Morrow? This is Jennifer Walsh from Ava's school. We need to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention." The high school principal's office hadn't changed much since I was a student. Same institutional beige walls, same uncomfortable chairs designed to make you confess to crimes you didn't commit. But sitting across from Jennifer Walsh, Ava's guidance counselor, I felt like I was in an entirely different kind of trouble. "Mr. Morrow," she began, consulting a file folder, "we've received some concerning information about your home situation." From who? I can't reveal sources, but there are allegations of domestic instability, possible substance abuse, and inappropriate behavior toward your wife. I felt my jaw clench. Ms. Walsh, have you spoken to Ava about any of this? We felt it best to address these concerns with you directly first. And what exactly are these concerns? She shifted uncomfortably. Reports suggest you've been drinking heavily, making threats, and that your wife has had to seek alternative housing for her safety. Reports from who? I asked again. Mr. Morrow, I understand this is difficult, but we have to consider Ava's well-being. Then talk to Ava. I stood up. Ask her if I've ever laid a hand on her mother. Ask her if I drink heavily. Ask her about the birthday party her mother skipped, or the $10,000 Tessa gave to her boyfriend. Ms. Walsh blinked. I'm sorry? You want to know about domestic instability? My wife is having an affair with a man who's been stalking our house. She filed a false police report to make me look dangerous, and now she's spreading lies to my daughter's school. I leaned forward. But please, don't let facts get in the way of a good story. I walked out before she could respond. In the parking lot, I called Reed. They got to Ava's school, I said. Who did? Tessa and her boyfriend. They're trying to make me look like an abusive drunk. Are you? Am I what? Drinking heavily? I thought about the beers I've been having every night since the birthday party. More than usual, sure, but hardly alcoholic territory. Not any more than you'd drink if your life was falling apart. Fair enough. What's your next move? That was the question. I could keep playing defense, keep trying to prove I wasn't the monster they were painting me as, or I could go on offense. I need to know more about Ethan, I said. Like what? Like everything. That evening, I drove back to EK Fitness. Not to confront anyone, I wasn't that stupid, but to observe. Reed had taught me that information was power, and right now I was powerless because I didn't know what I was really fighting. The gym stayed open until 10 on weeknights. I parked in the lot of a restaurant across the street and watched the building. Around 8:30, the flow of customers slowed to a trickle. By 9, it was just the staff and a few hardcore fitness addicts. At 9:15, Ethan emerged with a gym bag slung over his shoulder. He walked to his Range Rover, tossed the bag in the back, and drove off. I followed him. He stopped at a liquor store, then at a high-end apartment complex called Riverside Towers. I watched him disappear into the building and made note of the address. So this was where Tessa was staying. Not with a friend, with her boyfriend. I was about to leave when I spotted something that made me smile for the first time in days. Ethan had parked in a handicap space. No placard, no sticker, just pure entitlement. I took several photos with my phone, including clear shots of his license plate and the handicap symbol painted on the asphalt. The next morning, I anonymously reported the violation to the city's Parking Enforcement Division, along with the photos and timestamps. It was petty, sure, but it felt good to do something instead of just taking hit after hit. Then I got creative. My job managing IT systems had taught me a few things about networks and security. EK Fitness, like most modern businesses, relied heavily on their wireless network, not just for internet, but for their sound system, security cameras, and point-of-sale terminals. I spent my lunch break sitting in my car outside the gym, laptop open, running network analysis software. It took me 20 minutes to identify their Wi-Fi network, and another 10 to find the vulnerability I was looking for. Their sound system was connected to the network with default security settings that hadn't been changed since installation. That afternoon, I drove to the coffee shop where I'd seen Tessa and her friend Lila the week before. I ordered a drink and found a table with a clear view of their usual spot. At 3 o'clock, like clockwork, they arrived. I opened the voice recording app on my phone and set it on the table, hidden behind my laptop. Then I waited. Can't believe he actually changed the locks, Tessa was saying as they settled into their seats. What did you expect? Lila replied. You've been practically living at Ethan's place for months. That's different. Lane was never supposed to find out. But he did find out. And now what? You're really going through with the divorce? I have to. Ethan needs the money from the house sale. And honestly, I'm tired of pretending to be happy with Mr. Mediocre. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. The abuse angle is working? Lila asked. Like a charm. The cops believed every word, and the school is already treating him like a pariah. By the time this is over, he'll be lucky to get supervised visitation with Ava. And she's okay with all this? Ava, I mean, there was a pause. Ava doesn't know the whole story. She thinks her dad is having some kind of midlife crisis. What about the birthday party thing? She had to notice that nobody showed up. Tessa laughed. Actually laughed. That was perfect timing. I made sure everyone knew not to come. Told them Lane was acting strange, and we were worried about his mental state. I stopped breathing. You sabotaged his birthday party? I sabotaged everything. His friendships, his reputation, his relationship with Ava. By the time I'm done, he'll have nothing left but child support payments and alimony. I had heard enough. More than enough. That evening, I sat in my home office and carefully edited the recording, isolating the most damaging parts. Then I uploaded it to an anonymous file-sharing service and prepared to put my network skills to use. Friday night was EK Fitness's busiest time. Young professionals getting their weekend workout fix, couples exercising together, the whole beautiful people scene in full swing. At 8 o'clock, I sat in the restaurant parking lot across the street, laptop open, connected to the gym's sound system. The music stopped abruptly, replaced by Tessa's voice. Can't believe he actually changed the locks. Through the gym's floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched heads turn toward the speakers. You've been practically living at Ethan's place for months. People stopped their workouts, looking confused. That's different. Lane was never supposed to find out. I saw Ethan emerge from his office, frantically trying to figure out what was happening. Ethan needs the money from the house sale, and honestly, I'm tired of pretending to be happy with Mr. Mediocre. The gym had gone completely silent, except for Tessa's voice describing her plan to destroy me. The abuse angle is working like a charm. Ethan was at the sound system control panel now, pushing buttons desperately. I made sure everyone knew not to come to his birthday party. Told them Lane was acting strange and we were worried about his mental state. People were pulling out their phones, recording. Someone was laughing. I sabotaged everything. His friendships, his reputation, his relationship with Ava. Ethan finally found the main power switch and killed the sound system. But it was too late. The damage was done. Through the windows, I could see people talking, pointing, some heading for the exits. Ethan stood in the middle of his gym, looking like a man watching his world collapse. I closed my laptop and drove home, whistling for the first time in weeks. The next morning brought a cascade of angry texts from unknown numbers. Tessa and Ethan trying to reach me through various apps and services since I'd blocked their regular contacts. You sick bastard. What did you do? This is harassment and we're calling the police. You just destroyed innocent people's lives. I deleted them all without responding, but I wasn't done, not even close. The anonymous package arrived on my doorstep Monday morning, just as I was leaving for work. No return address, no delivery confirmation, just a small box that rattled when I shook it. Inside were 2 items, a set of keys on a leather fob marked Riverside Towers, and a burner phone with a single text message. Unit 12B, you want to see what your wife's been up to? Come alone. Tonight, 9 p.m. I stared at the keys, my mind racing. Someone wanted me to break into Ethan's apartment, but who? And why? The smart thing would be to ignore it, throw the keys away, and pretend this never happened. But I was long past making smart decisions. At work, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I kept thinking about that text, about the keys burning a hole in my pocket. Someone knew about Tessa and Ethan's arrangement. Someone wanted me to see something. Reed called around lunch. How's the fallout from your little broadcasting stunt? He asked. Haven't heard anything official, but Ethan's gym was pretty empty when I drove by this morning. Good. Hit them where it hurts, their reputation and their wallet. He paused. What's your next move? I told him about the package and the mysterious invitation. Lane, that's obviously a trap. Maybe, or maybe someone's trying to help me. Who? You don't have any allies in this thing. Then who sent the keys? Reed was quiet for a moment. I don't know, but I don't like it. This feels like someone's trying to manipulate you into doing something stupid. Everything I've done lately has been stupid. Might as well keep the streak alive. Lane, I'm going, Reed, with or without your blessing. At 9 p.m., I stood outside Riverside Towers, the keys heavy in my hand. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that charged $3,000 a month for what used to be called a studio apartment. The lobby was empty except for a bored-looking security guard reading a magazine behind a marble desk. I walked past him like I belonged there, took the elevator to the 12th floor, and found Unit 12B. The key fit perfectly. Ethan's apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Modern furniture that looked uncomfortable, abstract art that meant nothing, and a kitchen that had never seen actual cooking. But it was the bedroom that made my stomach turn. Photos of Tessa on the nightstand, her clothes in the closet, her perfume on the dresser. She'd been living here for months. I was examining a credit card statement I'd found on the kitchen counter, more evidence of Tessa's financial contributions to Ethan's lifestyle, when I heard voices in the hallway. Told you this was a mistake, Tessa was saying as keys jingled outside the door. Relax. Nobody saw us leave the restaurant. I had maybe 10 seconds before they walked in. The bedroom was too far, the bathroom too obvious. I ducked into the walk-in closet just as the front door opened. I can't keep doing this, Tessa said, her voice clearer now that they were inside. Doing what? Living the life you deserve instead of playing house with that loser? Playing house with that loser paid for this apartment, Ethan, and the gym equipment, and your car payment. I pressed myself against the back wall of the closet, my phone in my hand, recording app already running. That's temporary, Ethan replied. Once the divorce goes through and we get the house money, we'll be set. If the divorce goes through, Lane's not as stupid as we thought. That stunt at the gym was nothing. A minor setback. People have short memories. Do they? Because I've had 3 clients cancel since Friday. 3 major events, Ethan. That's $20,000 in lost revenue. So we accelerate the timeline. Push harder on the abuse angle. Get a restraining order. Force him out of the house completely. There was a pause. I could hear Tessa moving around, probably pouring herself a drink. There's something else, she said finally. What? Ava's been asking questions. About why I'm never home. About the money I've been spending. She's not as naive as we hoped. So tell her the truth. That her father's unstable and you're protecting her. She won't believe it. She knows Lane better than that. Then make her believe it. Kids are impressionable. A few stories about daddy's drinking. Maybe some evidence of erratic behavior. You want me to lie to my daughter about her father? I want you to secure our future. Your daughter will understand when she's older. I felt sick. They weren't just destroying my reputation. They were planning to turn Ava against me. I don't know if I can do this anymore, Tessa said. Do what? Any of it. The lies, the manipulation, watching Lane fall apart. Lane's falling apart because he's weak, because he never appreciated what he had. You think he cared about you? When's the last time he took you somewhere nice? When's the last time he made you feel beautiful? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. You deserve better than a middle-aged IT guy who thinks dinner at Applebee's is romantic. He tried, Ethan. The birthday party was pathetic. 40 years old and begging people to celebrate his mediocre existence. You did him a favor by not showing up. The casual cruelty in his voice made my hands shake. I need some air, Tessa said. Where are you going? The balcony. I need to think. I heard the sliding door open and close. This was my chance. But instead of leaving, I stayed and listened to Ethan make a phone call. Yeah, it's me, he said. The Lane problem is getting worse. No, the gym thing was just the beginning. He's got evidence of the money transfers. I don't care what it costs. We need to end this now. What do you mean, how far am I willing to go? The conversation continued, but I'd heard enough. Ethan wasn't just planning to ruin me financially, he was planning something worse. I crept out of the closet and toward the front door, but Tessa chose that moment to come back inside. We stared at each other for a frozen moment. My wife of 15 years and me, her husband, caught spying on her new life. "Lane?" she whispered. "Hello, Tessa. What are you doing here?" Learning the truth, finally. Ethan appeared behind her, his face shifting from confusion to anger. "You son of a bitch. This is breaking and entering." "Actually, I have a key." I held it up. "Someone wanted me to see this place. To understand what you've been doing." "Who gave you that key?" Tessa demanded. "I was hoping you could tell me." Ethan stepped forward, trying to intimidate me with his size. "It doesn't matter. You're trespassing. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear the recording I just made of you two planning to frame me for abuse and turn my daughter against me." Tessa went pale. "You recorded us?" "Every word." Including the part where Ethan talks about ending the Lane problem permanently. "You don't understand what you heard," Ethan said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "I understand perfectly. You're a broke con artist who seduced my wife to get access to our money. And when that wasn't enough, you decided to destroy me completely." "Lane, please," Tessa said. "Let me explain." "Explain what? How you sabotaged my birthday party? How you've been stealing money for months? How you're planning to lie to our daughter about who I am?" She started crying, real tears, not the crocodile tears she'd probably used on the police. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said. "But it did go this far, and now you're going to live with the consequences." I walked to the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Ethan, you might want to check your business insurance. I hear the health department is planning a surprise inspection of your gym tomorrow. Something about unlicensed supplements and safety violations." His face went white. "You can't." "I already did." I left them standing in their stolen paradise and took the elevator down to the lobby. The security guard was still reading his magazine, oblivious to the drama playing out 12 floors above. Outside, I sat in my car for a long moment, processing what I'd learned. Tessa wasn't just cheating. She was actively working to destroy me. And Ethan wasn't just her boyfriend. He was the architect of a plan that went far beyond divorce. But I had something now that I hadn't had before. Proof, evidence, the truth, recorded in their own voices. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Did you find what you were looking for?" I stared at the message, realizing that whoever had sent me those keys was still out there, still watching. I typed back, "Who are you?" The response came immediately. "Someone who wants to see justice done." Why help me? Because some people deserve what's coming to them. I waited for more, but that was it. My mysterious ally had gone silent again. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still missing something important. Someone had wanted me to discover Tessa and Ethan's plan. Someone with access to Ethan's apartment. Someone who knew their schedule. But who? And what did they want in return? I was about to find out. The legal papers arrived by certified mail on Thursday morning. Petition for dissolution of marriage and emergency motion for temporary restraining order. Tessa was suing for divorce, claiming I was an abusive alcoholic who posed a danger to her and Ava. The restraining order prohibited me from coming within 500 feet of her, Ethan, or their shared residence. It also froze our joint bank accounts and gave her temporary custody of Ava. I called Reed immediately. "They're moving fast," he said after I read him the documents. "Too fast. This feels desperate." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. You caught them red-handed, recorded their whole plan. Now suddenly they're rushing to court with emergency motions? They're trying to control the narrative before you can tell your side. The hearing is set for next Friday. That gives me exactly 1 week. Then we better make it count." That afternoon, I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Hendricks, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who specialized in what she called high-conflict divorces. "Mr. Morrow," she said after reviewing the papers, "your wife's attorney is claiming you're mentally unstable financially irresponsible, and potentially violent. These are serious allegations. They're also completely false. I believe you, but belief doesn't win court cases. Evidence does. She leaned forward. Tell me you have evidence. I played her the recording from Ethan's apartment. Patricia listened with growing amazement, occasionally stopping to make notes. This is devastating to their case, she said when it finished. It proves premeditation, fraud, and conspiracy. But I have to ask, how did you obtain this recording? I told her about the mysterious keys and the anonymous texts. That's problematic. If you can't explain how you gained access to the apartment, the recording might not be admissible. Even if it proves they're lying? Even then, the court takes illegal evidence very seriously. My heart sank. So, what do? We find another way to prove your case, and we pray your mysterious benefactor reveals themselves before the hearing. That evening, I was surprised to find Ava waiting on my front porch. She looked older than 16, tired in a way that made my heart ache. Dad, can we talk? I let her in, noting how she looked around the house like she was seeing it for the first time. Mom says you've been acting crazy, she said without preamble. What do you think? I think Mom's been lying about a lot of things lately. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd eaten birthday cake alone 3 weeks ago. How long have you known? I asked. About Ethan? Since Christmas. I saw them together at the mall. She picked at a thread on the couch cushion. I kept waiting for you to figure it out. Why didn't you tell me? Because I hoped it would just end, that she'd come to her senses and remember she had a family. I felt a stab of guilt. While I'd been obliviously planning birthday parties and managing IT systems, my teenage daughter had been carrying this secret. Ava, I need you to know that everything your mother is saying about me, the drinking, the threats, all of it, it's not true. I know, Dad. You're the most boring, responsible person I've ever met. If you were going to have a midlife crisis, you'd probably just buy a slightly sportier Honda. Despite everything, I laughed. There's something else, she said. Mom doesn't know I know this, but she's been coaching me on what to say if anyone asks about you. Stories about you drinking too much, getting angry, making her scared. Will you tell the truth? In court, I mean? Dad, I'm 16. I can choose which parent I want to live with. She looked at me with eyes that were far too old for her face. I choose you. The next morning brought news that made me smile for the first time in days. The health department had indeed raided EK Fitness, finding numerous violations including unlicensed supplements, expired first aid supplies, and safety code infractions. The gym was shut down pending a full investigation. But Ethan wasn't going quietly. That afternoon, I received a visit at work from a man who introduced himself as Detective Ray Morrison. Mr. Morrow, I'm investigating a complaint of stalking and harassment filed by Ethan Klein. Let me guess. He says I've been following him, threatening him, sabotaging his business. Have you? Detective, 3 weeks ago, I didn't even know Ethan Klein existed. Now I find out he's been sleeping with my wife, taking our money, and plotting to destroy my life. If wanting justice makes me a stalker, then half the divorced men in America are criminals. Detective Morrison studied me carefully. Mr. Klein claims you hacked into his gym's sound system and broadcast private recordings. That's a very specific accusation. Did he explain how I supposedly obtained these private recordings? He says you broke into his apartment. With what? A key? Security cameras? Did he file a report about this alleged break-in? The detective's expression told me that no, Ethan hadn't filed a break-in report, because doing so would have raised questions about how I'd gained access, questions that might lead back to whoever had really sent me those keys. Mr. Morrow, I'm going to give you the same advice Detective Price gave you. Stay away from Mr. Klein and your wife. Don't contact them, don't go near their residence or workplace. What workplace? His gym is shut down. Detective Morrison left without answering. That evening, my mysterious benefactor contacted me again. The hearing is in 3 days. Are you ready? Ready for what? To finish this. I need to know who you are. You will, soon. Why are you helping me? There was a long pause before the response came. Because I know what it's like to be betrayed by someone you trust. Saturday night, I decided to take a risk. Tessa was planning her biggest event of the year, the annual Columbus Business Association Gala. 500 guests, live entertainment, and enough networking opportunities to make or break careers. It was being held at the Riverside Hotel, the same place where she'd claimed to have an emergency during my birthday party. I arrived early, dressed in my best suit, and positioned myself in the hotel bar where I could watch the main ballroom entrance. The event was black tie, and I had to admit, Tessa had outdone herself with the decorations. At 7:30, the lights dimmed and a slideshow began. Images of Columbus businesses, community leaders, and local landmarks projected on a massive screen behind the head table. That's when I made my move. During my years managing IT systems, I'd learned that most hotels use the same basic network infrastructure for their audiovisual equipment. A few minutes in a service corridor, a laptop, and the right software were all I needed. The slideshow continued normally for 10 minutes. Images of successful businesses, smiling executives, and community achievements. Then, seamlessly, it transitioned to something else. Photos of Tessa and Ethan together, at restaurants, at his apartment, in compromising positions that made it clear this wasn't a business relationship. The ballroom fell silent. Then came the audio, excerpts from the recording I'd made in Ethan's apartment. Tessa's voice explaining how she'd sabotaged my birthday party. Ethan discussing their plan to frame me for abuse. I'm tired of pretending to be happy with Mr. Mediocre. 500 of Columbus's business elite heard my wife dismiss me as mediocre. The abuse angle is working like a charm. They heard her admit to filing false police reports. I sabotaged everything. His friendships, his reputation, his relationship with Ava. They heard her confess to a calculated campaign of destruction. I slipped out of the hotel before security could trace the hack back to me, but not before I saw Tessa standing frozen at the head table, her face white with shock and humiliation. Her career as an event planner in Columbus was over. Sunday morning brought a flurry of angry messages from blocked numbers, but also something unexpected. A call from Patricia Hendricks, my attorney. Lane, I don't know what you did last night, but Tessa's lawyer just called. They want to discuss a settlement. What kind of settlement? The kind where they drop all the abuse allegations and agree to a standard divorce proceeding. No restraining order, no emergency custody hearing. And in exchange, you agree not to pursue criminal charges for fraud or file a civil suit for the money she gave to Ethan. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No deal. Lane, this is a good offer. Patricia, they destroyed my reputation, turned my friends against me, tried to steal my daughter, and came damn close to ruining my life. I'm not settling. I'm going to court, and I'm going to win. What if you lose? Then I lose. But at least I'll go down fighting. Monday brought news that changed everything. My phone rang at 6 a.m., an unknown number. Mr. Morrow? This is Ava. I'm calling from a friend's phone. Ava? What's wrong? Where are you? I'm at Madison's house. Dad, Mom tried to take me out of state last night. She said we were going to visit Aunt Carol in Arizona, but I heard her on the phone with Ethan. They were planning to disappear before the court hearing. My blood went cold. Are you safe? I'm safe, but Dad, there's something else. I know who's been helping you. What? The person sending you information, giving you access to Ethan's apartment. I know who it is. Who? It's me.